Well, hello there. Welcome back. So excited. And I just got to say it on the outset, thank you for the emails, the text messages, and thank you to all of those who've connected with me on LinkedIn. It's been amazing to connect with you, to hear your stories, to find out more about what's going on in your businesses. What exactly do you need? Where are you at? And so here we are. We're in if you're following along in the playbook, we're in chapter 2. If you're in the client communication masterclass video series, we're in this next module. If you're following along on YouTube, we're so glad you're here, whether you're doing this as an individual or for a team. Now, this segment is all about finding your voice and developing it. Finding your voice and developing it. Now, some of you probably don't remember the days that when you took pictures, you didn't take them on your phone, right? You had a camera and you would put the film in the camera, and then when you were done you take the film out and you take it to a place that developed the film, and they would take the negatives out and they would get into a dark room, however the magic was that they did it, but then they turned it into actual photographs, and they developed it from the negative to a photograph, and that transformation was powerful. And just in my studio right over here, I have a bookshelf with a little bin of pictures that mean the most to me. And my computer and my phone are obviously filled with thousands of them. But it's interesting the process that would have to happen. It's not like today. You snap a picture and it's on your phone. I can go to my and then it uploads to the cloud. I mean, it's amazing. But before, you would have to take the negative, put it in a dark room, put it in. I mean, it was just this process. And here's the reality for you, finding your voice is also a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And what tends to happen is sometimes we're like chameleons, or we want to be uh, exactly what our client needs. So we just assume that we've got to speak to them in the same voice that they're speaking to us. And the reality is I couldn't figure out for years why I wasn't getting ahead with some of my clients. And I couldn't figure it out. I had the knowledge, I had the energy, I had the plan, but sometimes my client meetings, they just fell flat. And I wonder, like, why is this connection not growing? Uh, our communication needs to be a bridge, not the wall like we've talked about. It needs to be a bridge. And looking back, I know exactly what I was doing wrong. I was trying to force it. I was trying to force my communication voice down my clients' throats. And one day things changed because I realized my voice had to develop, it had to transform, and I had to find it. And that's where this segment is so incredibly powerful. We're going to find our voice. And if you have the playbook, you're following along in chapter 2. If you're in the client communication masterclass series dashboard, you can, if you don't have the playbook, you can print the PDF from down below. And if you're on YouTube, the link will be in the comments. But at this point, you should just go to the store, speakwithpeople.com/store, pick up the playbook. You can either get the PDF version where you print it out, 3-hole punch it, or you can just buy the printed version. So this would be awesome. So here's what we want to do. We want to go to the PDF that we're looking at, and this is the voice assessment. Now, in your playbook and in the module, there is also the voice framework. And so we're going to hang with the assessment right now. And I want to go through these top 4 here, right on top, because these are the 5 trust driving client communication styles for financial professionals. And really, any type of sales position, these are just incredibly helpful to know. And the reality is we have a little bit of each of these, but we have a primary, we have a secondary, and then we have a growth voice. So let's go through these. The V is your vision voice. This is inspiration. You are the inspirational kind of client communicator. You're casting a big vision. You're bringing energy. You're bringing belief. You're bringing momentum. And that's powerful because that's what our clients need. They need to be able to hear that kind of stuff. And so the core focus of the vision voice is to cast vision, to energize action. Imagine what's going to happen. Let's get going. And the style strength is motivation and forward momentum. You know, it's the big 30,000 foot view. So I wonder how many of you have that. And then the O is the organized voice. And this is like the system's voice, right? You love process, you love structure. And the core focus is you create structure and process with your voice. And your style strength, you're so dependable. You bring so much clarity to it. So that's the organized voice. I wonder how many of us have that. Then we have I, the insight voice. And this is the strategy. This is the depth. This is the reflection. You're like the sage. And so you ask deeper questions. You connect purpose. You're very strategic, very reflective, very philosophical. Then we have C, the clarity voice. This is you simplify the clarity. You bring simplicity, direction, and focus. You're direct. You're actionable. And then E, empathy voice. You build connection, you listen deeply, you have a relational depth with your words, and you just build trust like nobody's business. The style strength is emotional intelligence plus trust. I mean, this is just the huge part of it. Now, let's go back up to the top. For vision, sometimes you risk when it's overused, you may overhype or skip some details because it's so big. We're going to do this, we're going to climb the mountain, and you forget some of the details. And so sometimes some of us, we need to slow down and check for clarity. The organized voice, sometimes we risk when overused, it could just feel rigid or impersonal. And you got to add some warmth, you got to add some flexibility. Sometimes organized voice, you think of like Sheldon from the, great TV show about Sheldon. I can't remember the name of the TV show, but that's just it, the NASA scientist. And so go to the insight voice. You risk when overviews, you can get too conceptual. You stretch the goal. You got to tie the insights to simple action. So then the C, clarity, when it's overused, you just feel blunt or you feel rushed. And your stretch goal with this is you got to pause and ask emotional questions. And then I'm sorry, empathy. Empathy is very emotional. And when you overuse it, you risk avoiding challenging or clarity. And your stretch goal is you lead with both heart and structure. And that's the powerful thing about what happens in this uh, framework. And so this would be a great framework to go together as a team. So if you're an individual on a team, I highly recommend taking this to your manager, the supervisor, the VP, whoever it is, and just saying, hey, as a team, we should go through this. Because what happens is sometimes you bring your vision voice to your client, and your client needs the empathy voice. Or you bring your empathy voice, and the client needs vision. And so what happens is by the time you go through this assessment and you start to work through all of this voice framework, you know your primary, your secondary, and your growth voice. And then you could start to recognize it in your clients. And then you're able to speak in a way that connects trust on a much deeper level. So, this is another assessment that's going to take you probably 5 to 7 minutes, not going to take forever, but it's just going to bring a whole lot of clarity, a whole lot of structure, a whole lot of growth, and uh, we're so much transformation. You're going to develop from an average communicator to an exceptional communicator because you're going to know what voice to use, and you're going to lean into the voice that you use the best. So I'm gonna have you do right now is I'm gonna have you press pause in about 5 seconds. And I'm gonna have you go through this assessment and go through each section and then tally them up, and we'll go through the bottom together. So go ahead and press pause. I'll see you back here in a second. All right. So you're back. Now let's go through the very bottom. Let's do the scoring interpretation. What does this voice assessment mean? Okay. So based on, if you're in the core strength, this voice isn't just a tool, it's your superpower. So you got to know what that superpower voice is. You likely use it naturally, it's often, it's what makes you memorable, trusted, referable. So double down on it, leverage it, use it in your first meetings, your presentations. But here's the thing to be careful about, even a strength can become overused if it's not balanced. So make sure it's serving your clients, not just you. Now, the next level down, you're reliable but inconsistent. Okay. So You got to strengthen this voice. This is the one that's emerging. It shows up. It's not always when it's needed. You got to remember, you got to ask, how would this voice change the way I show up in hard conversations? And then the untapped potential. It's the time to develop this one. Ask yourself, what would it look like to intentionally grow this voice over the next 30 days? Try using it one meeting per week. And then your growth opportunity. This is the missing link in your client communication. Because you would think that this voice is a weakness, but it's not. It's an opportunity waiting to be unlocked. So if clients aren't responding, referring, or staying engaged, you might have to tap into this voice a little bit. And so then go through and write down your primary, your secondary, your growth voice. Do these commitments. I will use my primary voice to. I will lean into my secondary voice when. I will develop my growth voice by. And go through each of these and make sure you do it. And then in this assessment PDF, you now have a coaching card. Okay. So in the vision voice, you want to learn these key words that will just bring out your primary voice even more. Imagine, possibility, potential. Here's a sample. Let's dream big for a moment. For organize, you want to say things like step by step, reliable, structure. Your sample line would be, here's our process from here. Your insight, you want to say why, long term, meaning. Why does this matter to you? For clarity, you want to say words like clear and simple and confident. And here's the next step in one sentence. And then empathy, you want to use words like feel, understand, care. You want to ask questions like, how are you feeling about all of this? This is everything that's just so incredibly powerful to be able to do. And then in this PDF, you have more opportunities to be able to go through and find out how you can make each of these adaptable and then stretch them into your possible, your voice. What's happening with your voice? These are the powerful things that you're able to do. And this is why we developed this voice assessment. So you can learn the framework, learn each of them, and then find your primary, your secondary. For me, my primary is vision. I'm always going to talk in a vision voice. I want you to imagine with me what it's going to be like in 6 months. Can you even imagine? Can you imagine what it's going to be like in 3 years? 3 years are going to go by a blink. It's going to go by so fast. And we're going to be sitting here over coffee, your favorite coffee, mind you. And we're going to look at the numbers on the paper and imagine what that's going to be like. So you got to figure out how to communicate. You got to lean into that superpower. And I know, for some of us, we're thinking like, okay, is this a little over the top? I just need to show up and do my pitch. Listen, if you take this to heart and you go through, and especially if in the playbook at the end of this chapter and you do the wrap up section and you learn how to strengthen your voice, you do some of the growth journal spot, and then you look for ways to use your voice this week, powerful things happen. Powerful things. Just think about the development of pictures over time. In my studio on the wall, you can't see it, but if I turn the camera around, I have a picture of Babe Ruth. Uh, as the story goes, there's a photographer who really photographed Babe's last year. He's with the Boston Braves. They promised that they would make him a manager. He'd be part player, part manager, and he was really just an assistant manager. And they really didn't give him any responsibilities. They just did it to sell tickets. And so he's sitting on the bench. He's holding 3 bats in this picture, and he's thinking about, do I just quit? And so he walks up, does his last at bat, gets a hit, and then quits, walks out. He's not going to be used anymore. But then on the next wall, Babe's pictures in black and white. It's just beautiful. Then in the next wall, I have a picture of my 10-year-old stroking a line drive. And the picture's blown up and it's in color. And you can actually see the ball hit the bat because my wife took it with a digital camera. And just to see how far that came, that's exactly what happens in your communication with your clients. When you learn these frameworks, when you understand your voice, you go from black and white to color. You go from a still photo to a reel. I mean, just think about the transformation. And so that's my challenge to you at the end of this section. You've got to learn your voice and develop it because when you do, you lean into it even more. Then you can spot those moments that, okay, my client's talking to me in empathy voice. I better use that empathy voice. And you don't want to fake it, but you just need to understand it so you're able to do that. Okay, like always, at the very end, I just want to remind you about this incredible resource, Insights. This is our newsletter monthly. You get 2 articles a month, the client growth and referral and retention report. This is your opportunity to learn how to care for, manage, communicate with your clients like never before. Okay, that's it. I hope that you went through this. I hope if you still don't have the playbook, you get the PDF version. Mine is printed right here. Get it in front of you. If you're watching this on the YouTube, go to the link and download all these free PDFs. But more importantly, go to speakofpeople.com/store and buy the playbook and go through it as a team. Or maybe you're getting to a point as a manager where you're like, okay, I need to do this together. You can go to the store, get the bundle where you have everything together. You can go through the training. All right. Like always, you have my email, you have my phone number. Hopefully, we're connected on LinkedIn. I want to hear about how it's going. And would you email me today, jason@speakofpeople.com, and just tell me your primary voice? I just want to know. Text me your primary voice. If you're insight or clarity or organize or empathy or vision, whatever it is. All right, we'll see you in the next video. I'm excited for the success that you're experiencing and you're going to experience in the future. Let's go from being average client communicators to exceptional. We can do this together.